Juanita Wade's new car has an MSRP of $28,902.11, including title and processing fees. The Premier package, which includes surround sound and DVD player, costs 3 times the amount of the InStyle package, which includes leather seats and selected wheels. The total cost of her new car was $34,290.08, which included the 6.5% sales tax. Find the cost of the Premier package to the nearest cent. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit tricky, so you may have to pause the video, replay the video at times. The thing is that there's not really a totally straightforward method to solving this. There's more than one way of attacking it, and we have to kind of dabble in a few different areas at the same time. So rather than a process that goes step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, we have many steps that could all take place at different times. You'll see what I mean when we get going. However, as always, we will start by asking ourselves, what is the question asking us to solve for? And that's the cost of the Premier package. Now, we know that the cost of the Premier package is wrapped up in the total cost of the vehicle. The total cost of the vehicle is going to be equal to whatever the base price is, so without any perks or anything added before tax. We have the base price. We also have, they mentioned the InStyle package. So that's an added cost. The driver also opted for the Premier package, which is another additional cost. And finally, sales tax, a non-negotiable. So the total cost of the car is wrapped up in the base price, the added packages, and the sales tax. Now, let's talk about sales tax. So we know that whatever the sales tax is going to be the difference of the total cost and the base price InStyle and Premier packages. Okay, so again, to find sales tax, one, you could have figured this out just from reasoning it. You could have said, well, if something costs me $25 but I paid $27 at the register, whatever that difference is, $2, that's what I paid in sales tax. So that's one way to think about this equation. Another way is you could just think of that I rearranged this total cost equation so that I had solved for sales tax. That's another way of thinking about it. Notice that the subtraction symbol will be distributed to base, InStyle, and Premier. So we're subtracting the sum of all three, or we're subtracting them one by one. You could think of it either way. So it will end up being total cost minus the base price, minus InStyle, minus the Premier package. Okay, so that's sales tax. Now let's again, this is kind of one of the side steps I was talking about. So we have the base price, the InStyle package, and the Premier package. Now, if we take the sum of those, they are equal to the total cost divided by 1 plus, let's pick a new color here, 1 plus the tax rate. Now, we've used this sort of equation before. I believe I have this equation listed. To tell you where this is coming from, this comes from the fact that you're paying 100%, that's what that 1 stands for, you're paying for 100% of the cost of this vehicle plus tax rate. Again, you're paying for 100% of the cost of the vehicle plus the tax rate. Okay, so you end up paying 100 and whatever percent total. So by dividing the total cost by that tax rate, it's going to tell us what the sum of the base price, the InStyle, and the Premier packages are. So I know that's a little tricky. If you need a moment to look that over, refer back to your notes, look at the formulas I have on the reference sheets, I encourage you to do so. Alright, and the point of setting this up this way is because I actually do know I do know the total cost. I know that the total cost was $34,290.08. So I plug that in. And I know that the tax rate was 6.5%, so I do 1 plus 0.065. So plugging that in, I get, well, just 1.065, right? Alright, so, and then dividing that, so I get 1.065. If I divide 34,290.08 by 1.065, I end up with 32,197.26. So that just told me that the sum of the base price, the InStyle, and the Premier packages are $32,197.26. This also allows me to solve for sales tax. So again, several operations going on in different directions here. So, coming back to sales tax, we know that the total cost is $34,290.08, and I just found out that the sum, I still don't know individually the InStyle package, the Premier package, right? But I do know the sum. I do know the sum of these three things, which is $32,197.26. Okay, so again, even though I don't know each individual variable, I know the total. So if I take the difference of the total cost of the car minus the sum of the base, the InStyle, and the Premier, that tells me that my sales tax is equal to $2,092.82. Okay. So now we're going to take another look at our original equation, that total cost equation. So, we know that the total cost, let's plug it in, we know that the total cost is $34,290.08. Now, we also know, and let's just plug it in because we know it, we also know that the sales tax is $2,000, so I'll leave some space, $2,092.82. So I plugged in total cost, I plugged in sales tax. Now again, I know that the sum of the base price, the InStyle, and the Premier is this $32,197.26, but the question is asking me to solve for the Premier package, so I have to figure out what this Premier package is equal to. Now, remember, our goal is always to have as few variables in an equation as possible. Once I get it down to a one variable equation, I'm able to solve the one variable equation for the variable that I had intended to solve for in the first place. So, from this point, because they tell me in the text that the Premier package costs 3 times the amount of the InStyle package. So, I can do a little trick here and I can say, okay, if the Premier package costs 3 times the amount of the InStyle package, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the InStyle package X. I'm going to call the InStyle package X. I could still write InStyle, but X just saves space. So again, the InStyle package, I'm going to call it X. And now the base price, again, I still don't know it, but I do know how it relates to InStyle. It's 3 times the cost of the InStyle, so I could write this as 3x. So I've just written base price in terms of the InStyle, or excuse me, Premier. I've just written Premier, sorry, not base price. I've just written Premier in terms of InStyle because the Premier package cost 3 times the amount. Okay? The only other variable, base price, I do know, they told me the MSRP was $28,902.11. So the key is just figuring out that because the Premier package costs 3 times the InStyle package, I can represent it in terms of the InStyle variable. Notice now that I do have a one variable equation, okay? All I have is x. So I'm going to solve for x. Now notice again, solving for x is just going to tell me the base of the price of InStyle, but that's okay. So let's solve. So if I combine these, I get 4x. Okay, so 4x, this would be 4x. I move my constants over to the other side, so I would subtract off this 28,902, move it to the other side, subtract off this 2,092.82, move it to the other side, and subtracting them from the 34,290 gives me that, let's see, I would come out with $3,295.15 equals 4x. So if I divide by 4 on both sides, that tells me that x is equal to $823.79. Now I'm not done yet. Because x is equal to the InStyle package, and I want to know the cost of the Premier. Remember that the Premier costs 3 times as much. So from here, all I need to do is say that, okay, if x equals $823, then 3x equals $823.79 times 3, which is, finally, $2,471.37. Okay, so that's our solution, $2,471.37. Again, several steps included here. So sometimes you can't work straight on at a problem, you have to attack it with what you know. So we started with that total cost equation, and I chose to start with sales tax, okay? I could have figured out this 3x and x relationship at the beginning if I wanted to. I started with sales tax. I solved for sales tax by using the tax rate. Now I knew to do that because tax rate was given in the problem. Most of the time the information they provide you in the problem is going to be useful to you. Not always, but mostly. So using that sales rate information, I was able to solve for sales tax. Once I had sales tax, I already knew base price, I already knew the total cost of the car. That left me 2 variables. Fortunately, the text told me a relationship between the 2 variables, that one cost 3 times as much as the other, and I was able to represent them both in terms of x. Finally, I solved for x, found 3x to get our final answer. So again, I know that's a long one, it's a little complicated, and I recommend taking notes and perhaps watching the video again if you have any questions.